Welcome back to the Deep End. It is Friday, February 13th, 2026.
Mm-hmm.
And look, usually when people talk about a Friday news dump, they're talking about an administration quietly sliding a piece of bad news under the door at, 5 p.m., hoping everyone's already at happy hour.
Hoping nobody notices.
Hoping nobody notices. But what happened today, and honestly, what has been happening all week coming out of the White House,
Yeah.
it isn't a dump.
No.
It's an avalanche.
It really is. I mean, an avalanche is the perfect word for it. I've been analyzing government documents for a long time. I mean, decades, really. And I don't think I've ever seen a stack of paper quite this heavy.
Heavy is the word.
Yeah. And I don't just mean the physical weight of the executive orders, the press releases, the fact sheets, the proclamations. I mean the sheer structural weight of what they are changing.
Right.
It is. It's dense.
It feels different, doesn't it? This isn't just, tweaking tax rates or shifting a few budget lines around. We are seeing a fundamental rebranding of the American ethos.
That's a great way to put it.
The White House is calling it the dawn of a golden age of American innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And they're pulling out all the stops, rhetorically, historically, legally, to sell this idea.
And that's the headline, right? That is the neon sign flashing above the White House. But our mission today is to look past the golden age branding.
Under the hood.
Exactly. Because when you actually read the text, and you and I have gone through every single line of these February releases, from the energy mandates to the trade deals, you realize this isn't just about innovation.
No.
It is about a radical restructuring of who holds power in Washington, who makes money in the energy sector, and honestly, how the United States defines the very concept of defense.
Or war, but we will get to that.
Yes, we will definitely get to that.
That is a specific detail in the paperwork that I think is going to shock a lot of people.
Yeah.
It certainly stopped me in my tracks.
It shocked me too. I had to read it twice. And it's not something to just glaze over.
No, absolutely not. But let's set the stage first. The rhetoric, you mentioned the golden age, they are really leaning on history to frame this moment.
Heavily.
We had a proclamation for Thomas Edison's birthday on the 11th, and then another one for Abraham Lincoln's birthday on the 12th. And reading these, they aren't talking about these figures in the way we learned in, grade school.
No, not at all.
They aren't just historical trivia. They are being used as political mirrors for the present day.
And this is so critical for understanding the current policy mindset. They aren't honoring Edison just as the guy who made the light bulb or the phonograph.
Right, the Wizard of Menlo Park.
Exactly. The proclamation specifically, and I would say quite aggressively, frames him as an outsider. The text says, quote, "It is the outsiders who change the world."
And that's not a subtle parallel.
It is a very deliberate parallel to the president's own self-image. This idea that you have to be outside the Washington system to fix the system. It's meant to validate all the disruption we are seeing.
Okay, so that's Edison, the disruptive outsider. And then there's Lincoln. I think most people hear Lincoln and they think Civil War.
Emancipation Proclamation.
Oh, the Gettysburg Address. But the White House released a proclamation that frames him as, essentially a protectionist.
Tariff man Lincoln, effectively. It was fascinating to read.
I couldn't believe it.
The proclamation explicitly links Lincoln's legacy to the idea that, and I'm quoting here, strategic tariffs could strengthen industry.
Wow.
They are using Abraham Lincoln to validate the current trade war strategy. They're saying, look, this isn't new, this isn't radical, this is foundational American economic theory going back to the 1860s.
So it's an attempt to create a historical lineage for what are actually very modern, very aggressive economic policies.
Precisely. It's a way of making the controversial seem traditional.
So that's the wrapper then. We're outsiders like Edison, and we're protectionists like Lincoln. That's the story they want to tell.
That's the branding.
But let's tear the wrapper off and look at the actual machinery inside. I want to start with the energy sector, because this is where the rubber literally meets the road. Friday, February 13th. The White House announces what they are claiming is the single largest deregulatory action in American history.
This is the big one. This is the earthquake. If you take nothing else away from this entire stack of papers, you need to understand the endangerment finding and what just happened to it.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Because endangerment finding sounds like a title from a suspense novel, not a policy mechanism.
It does, doesn't it?
But it's been the rule of the land for almost 2 decades now.
Yeah.
What exactly was it, and why does repealing it matter so much right now?
Okay, so to understand why this is nuclear, you have to go back to 2009.
Right.
The EPA, and this was backed by a really important Supreme Court ruling called Massachusetts v. EPA, issued a scientific determination. It was a formal finding.
And what did it find?
They essentially stated, as a matter of legal and scientific fact, that 6 greenhouse gases, including, most famously, carbon dioxide, threaten the public health and welfare of current and future generations.
So CO2 is dangerous. That was the official position.
That was the official, legally binding position, and that finding was the trigger for everything else that came after.
It was the foundation.
It was the foundation, the absolute load-bearing wall. Once the EPA admits this stuff is dangerous, the Clean Air Act mandates that they have to regulate it.
So they don't have a choice at that point.
They don't have a choice. It's not optional. So every fuel efficiency standard for cars, every power plant emission rule, the entire federal push for electric vehicles, it all rested on the weight of that 2009 finding.
It was the linchpin.
It was the legal scientific trigger that said the government must act on climate change.
And as of today,
Revoked. Gone. The administration has officially rescinded that finding.
so just gone. How do you do that? Walk us through the logic here. How do you just unfind a scientific determination? What is the administration's argument for wiping this off the books?
Well, their argument is to create a very sharp distinction between science and statutory authority.
Okay.
They are arguing that the EPA, by regulating CO2, basically turned itself into an economic central planner. That's the phrase they use.
A central planner.
Yes. They claim the EPA was never meant to decide what kind of cars Detroit builds or how the entire American power grid functions. So they framed the 2009 finding not as science, but as a bureaucratic overreach.
So it wasn't about the science being wrong. It was about the power being wrong.
Exactly. They say it weaponized regulations against the American economy. They're saying the EPA stepped way out of its lane and they are putting it back in its box. It's a legal argument, not a scientific one.
And they're pitching this move directly to the consumer's wallet. I mean, it's right here in the press release, and the number they lead with is big.
It's a huge number.
They aren't talking about parts per million of carbon. They are talking about dollars.
Right. And that's the key. They claim that by killing these burdensome electrification mandates, the average American family will save over $2,400 on a new vehicle.
$2,400.
Yeah.
That's a mortgage payment for some people. That's a family vacation.
It gets your attention.
It certainly does. So where does that savings come from? Is that real math or is that political fuzzy math?
Well, it is a mix of removing direct hardware costs and, more importantly, changing market incentives.
Okay, break that down.
All right, think about the tech in your car right now. Start-stop engines, where the engine shuts off at a red light to save gas.
The feature that drives some people absolutely crazy.
Right.
I know people who disable that the second they buy the car.
Exactly. And, it does save a little fuel, but it costs money to install. You need heavy-duty starters, different kinds of batteries. It's not free. The administration's argument is that if you stop forcing car companies to meet these, what they call impossible MPG standards, then they can stop putting that expensive tech in.
So they can build a simpler, cheaper car?
A simpler, cheaper car. And there's another piece to it. They also argue that car companies have been artificially hiking the price of their profitable gas trucks, like the F-150 or the Silverado.
The moneymakers.
That absolute moneymakers, to subsidize the losses they take on building electric vehicles that nobody was buying.
So the logic is, let Ford and Stellantis build the big V8s they want to build. Stop forcing them to build EVs that are just sitting on lots. And then the price of the truck you actually want to buy drops because it's not cross-subsidizing a battery car.
That is exactly the argument, 100%. And if you look at the industry reaction that's included in these documents, they are ecstatic.
I bet.
We have quotes here from the Coalition for a Constructive Tomorrow, the Petroleum Alliance of Oklahoma. Even Stellantis, that's the parent company of Jeep and Ram and Dodge.
Big truck company.
Very big truck company. And they explicitly said this move allows them to offer cars people want, need, and can afford. It's a direct shot at the EV mandates.
So on the surface, for the listener driving a 10-year-old sedan hoping to buy a new truck, this sounds like fantastic news.
It sounds like a win.
Cheaper cars, less nagging technology, who wouldn't want that?
And in the short term, yeah, you'll likely see cheaper sticker prices. It's very appealing. But here's the deep dive analysis where we have to look at the cost that isn't on the sticker.
The hidden cost.
The hidden cost. By repealing the endangerment finding, the administration hasn't just paused a few rules on cars. They have removed the legal ability for the federal government to fight climate change. period.
So it's not a scalpel, it's a scorched earth approach.
It is. It's taking the foundation out from under the entire house. If CO2 isn't legally defined as dangerous, then the EPA can't regulate it under the Clean Air Act. The authority is just gone.
So while you might save $2,400 on the car,
The hidden tax, if you want to call it that, is the total cessation of federal climate action.
wow.
So if you're someone who's worried about extreme weather, or you're seeing your insurance premiums rise because of climate risks like floods and fires, or if you care about air quality in cities, those are the costs that you are going to pay on the back end.
It effectively unleashes the fossil fuel industry from any federal oversight when it comes to climate.
Completely.
It is a massive, massive boon for the oil industry and the legacy automakers, and it's all framed as a coupon for the consumer.
That's the political genius of it, if you want to call it that. It's a return to the pre-2009 era, but with even more aggressive legal barriers built in against future regulation. They are trying to make it bulletproof so a future administration can't just flip a switch and turn it back on.
Okay, that is a seismic shift, which brings us to the next document in the stack.
Yeah,
And this one, I honestly thought it was a typo when I first read it.
I know the one you mean.
I had to clean my glasses.
Yeah.
We're looking at an executive order regarding national defense energy. But the header doesn't say Department of Defense.
No, it says Department of War.
The Department of War. And it directs the Secretary of War.
I did a double take too. I really did. I actually pulled up the original PDF metadata to make sure it wasn't some kind of doctored document or a fake. It's real, and it's consistent throughout the document.
Okay, let's just pause on the name for a second. The United States hasn't had a Department of War since 1947.
Right after World War II.
We changed it to the Department of Defense essentially to sound less aggressive, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
After World War II, the National Security Act of 1947 created the modern structure.
Yeah.
And the shift to defense was a huge part of that. The geopolitical idea was that we are a peace-loving nation that only maintains a military to protect itself from aggression.
We don't start fights, we finish them. That was the whole brand.
That was the brand. So reverting to Department of War, even if it's just in the letterhead of these executive orders for now, is a massive psychological and symbolic shift.
Words matter.
They matter immensely.
Defense is reactive. You defend the castle when the barbarians are at the gate. War is active. You wage war. You go out and you take ground.
It implies a state of mobilization. It's proactive, not reactive. It signals to the world, and just as importantly to the military bureaucracy itself, that the posture is no longer just about deterrence.
That's about something else.
It's about offense, or conquest, or at the very least, an aggressive assertion of American power. It fits the golden age narrative of strength, but it's a very sharp, very heavy signal. It suggests we are entering a more combative era.
Okay, so that's the framing. What is the Department of War actually being ordered to do in this document? Because it's not just a name change. They're being given a very specific shopping list for energy.
They are, a very specific list. The president has directed the military to prioritize long-term power purchase agreements. So, buying electricity, specifically with coal-fired energy facilities.
Not just reliable energy, not nuclear or natural gas, specifically coal.
Explicitly and exclusively coal. And the language used in the order to describe it is, quote, beautiful, clean coal.
That phrase keeps popping up. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Such a branding word. You don't usually describe a sedimentary rock as beautiful in a legal document.
No, you do not. It's pure marketing. And, in the energy industry, clean coal usually implies something very specific, expensive carbon capture technology.
Right. Scrubbers that take the sulfur and CO2 out before it goes up the smokestack.
Exactly. But this order doesn't mandate the capture tech, it just mandates the purchase of the power. The rationale they give is all about grid reliability.
Explain that argument. Why is coal being framed as more reliable for the military than, say, a field of solar panels and a bunch of batteries?
The argument is all about baseload power. The text argues that things like wind and solar are intermittent.
They depend on the weather.
Right. And if you are running a critical command center or a global radar array or a missile silo, you cannot care if it's cloudy. You cannot care if the wind isn't blowing. You need 100%, 247 power, no questions asked.
Okay, that makes sense.
And they argue that coal piles are on-site fuel. You don't need a natural gas pipeline that can be hacked or physically blown up. You have a giant pile of rock that burns. It's physically secure right there on the base.
So it's about fuel security.
That's the argument.
That makes tactical sense in a vacuum. I get the idea of having your fuel source on site, But isn't the rest of the world, and more importantly, the free market, moving away from coal? Coal plants are closing everywhere because they are just too expensive to run. Natural gas is cheaper. Renewables are getting cheaper every day.
And that is exactly why this executive order exists. You hit the nail on the head. The text explicitly mentions that this order is designed to stop the closure of 17 gigawatts of coal power. This isn't the military asking for coal because they love the smell of soot in the morning.
No.
This is the administration using the military's massive, non-negotiable budget to save the coal industry from bankruptcy.
To the bailout, a backdoor bailout.
It's state-directed industrial policy. It's the literal opposite of the free market they champion elsewhere. The free market is killing coal because it's inefficient and expensive.
So the government is stepping in.
The administration is stepping in and saying, no, the Department of War will be your new guaranteed customer. They are artificially creating demand to keep these mines open and these plants running.
So let's follow the money. Who benefits from this?
Well, the mine owners in places like West Virginia and Pennsylvania and Wyoming, the plant operators, the executives of these large coal companies.
And the military.
And sure, the military gets its fuel security, at least in theory. But the regular taxpayer. You are the one subsidizing an energy source that is more expensive and dirtier than the market alternatives, all in the name of national security.
So we are paying a premium to keep an old industry alive.
A very significant premium.
It's a fascinating contradiction, isn't it? On one page, they repeal the EPA rules to let the market decide on cars, let the consumer choose.
Total free market rhetoric.
And on the very next page, they force the military to buy coal, completely ignoring the market.
That's the key takeaway from this whole stack of documents. The philosophy isn't small government or free market. The philosophy is government in service of specific national goals.
It's transactional.
Highly transactional. If the goal is cheaper cars, you deregulate. If the goal is saving the coal industry, you regulate and mandate. It's not about a consistent ideology. It's about power.
Okay, let's pivot to the economy. Because while they are restructuring the energy sector and the military, they are also doing a major victory lap on inflation. The document released on the 13th is titled, President Trump Delivers Another Inflation Win.
They are shouting this from the rooftops. And, to be fair, looking at the numbers provided in their fact sheet, they have a case to make.
The CPI, the Consumer Price Index, is at 2.4%. That's the lowest it's been since last May.
Core inflation is down as well. And critically, they are claiming that real wages are up.
That's the big one.
That's everything. They say real wages have outpaced inflation by nearly $1,400 a year. That means people aren't just making more money on their paycheck. Their money is actually buying more stuff at the store.
Your purchasing power has increased.
Exactly.
And they get very specific in the fact sheet. They list things people actually buy. Beef, eggs, coffee, gasoline. Gas is down 3.2%.
And if you are a regular person pushing a shopping cart through the grocery store, these aren't abstract numbers. You feel it when eggs are cheap. You feel it when filling at the tank doesn't hurt as much.
Right.
This is the core of the golden age pitch. Your life is cheaper and easier. They are hitting those kitchen table issues very, very hard.
But they also take a massive swing at the previous administration in these documents. There's a line here claiming the Biden-era job numbers were overstated by 1.9 million jobs.
That's a staggering revision if it's accurate. It's a huge number. And it feeds directly into their narrative that the previous economy was a mirage.
A sugar high.
A sugar high of government spending, exactly. And this new economy is the real deal. They are effectively saying, they lied to you about the recovery. We are giving you the actual recovery.
But speaking of jobs, I want to look at the breakdown, because there is a cliff in the data here that we really need to talk about. The private sector added 172,000 jobs.
Which is healthy. It's a solid number.
But federal employment, the number of people working for the federal government.
It's at its lowest level since 1966.
1966. That's huge. I mean, the population of the country has grown massively since 1966, so the complexity of the government has grown. How do you run the federal government with 1966 staffing levels?
Well, the short answer is you don't. Or at least you don't run the same government that existed last year.
Right.
The administration, of course, frames this as draining the swamp or right-sizing the bureaucracy. They view every federal employee cut as a victory for the taxpayer. Less waste.
But for you, the listener, this is the double-edged sword, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
How so?
Well, on one hand, yes. A smaller federal payroll means less of your tax money is spent on bureaucrats in Washington. That fits the efficiency narrative perfectly.
Sounds good on paper.
It does. But federal employees aren't just people sitting in D.C. pushing paper. They're the people who process your Social Security check. They're the USDA food inspectors, making sure the beef you buy is safe.
They're the National Park Rangers, the air traffic controllers.
All of them. So when you slash the workforce down to 1966 levels, you are essentially throttling the service layer of the government.
You're shrinking its capacity to function.
Precisely. You might get a tax cut, but good luck getting someone on the phone at the VA or getting your passport renewed in a timely manner. It's a deliberate shrinking of state capacity. It benefits the taxpayer's wallet in the abstract, but it hurts the citizen who actually needs a government service in reality.
Okay, let's talk about how we are interacting with the rest of the world now. Trade. There's a new phrase in town, and it's all over these documents. Reciprocal trade.
The tagline is simple, and it's very effective. If they tax us, we tax them.
It sounds fair on a bumper sticker.
It really does. It sounds like simple justice.
And we have 3 new deals on the table: India, Bangladesh, and North Macedonia. But the India deal seems to be the titan here.
It's massive. We're talking about a market of 1.4 billion people. The White House is saying that India is removing tariffs on a whole host of U.S. goods, everything from agricultural products like pecans to heavy industrial machinery, and get this, committing to buy $500 billion in U.S. energy and tech.
$500 billion. $500 billion.
$500 billion. It's an enormous transfer of wealth. It's a lot of liquefied natural gas, LNG, and, you guessed it, a lot of coal. It's opening a massive new consumer base for American companies.
But there's a twist in the India deal, right? We lowered our tariffs on them, too. We dropped them from 25% down to 18%. Why did we blink? Usually, this administration loves tariffs.
This is where reading the fine print really pays off. If you look closely, the fact sheet says we removed that additional tariff in recognition of India's commitment to stop purchasing Russian Federation oil.
Whoa. So this isn't just about selling pecans to Mumbai.
No, not at all. This is economic warfare masked as a trade deal. The United States is essentially saying to India, we will give you preferential access to our massive economy, and we will sell you the energy you need, but you have to cut off Vladimir Putin.
We are using our market access as a weapon to starve Russia of its oil revenue.
Precisely. It's geopolitical 4D chess.
Right.
We are actively replacing Russian oil in the Indian market with American energy. It hurts Russia, it helps American energy companies, and it strengthens the U.S.-India strategic bond against China primarily.
It creates an economic bloc.
A powerful one.
That is incredibly strategic. But I have to ask about the inflation piece of tariffs. Yeah. Usually every economist on the planet says tariffs cause inflation because the importer pays the tax and just passes that cost on to the consumer.
Right. The tariff is a tax on your own people argument.
But the administration is claiming here, and I'm quoting, there is no evidence of tariff-induced spikes. How is that possible?
That is an economic anomaly. And there are 2 ways to read it. One, and this is the pessimistic view, is that companies are just eating the cost for now because they are terrified of losing market share.
So the pain is just delayed.
The pain could be delayed, yes. Or 2, the reciprocal nature of the deals, where other countries are dropping their tariffs at the same time, is creating enough new export growth that is balancing out the higher import costs.
So it's a wash.
It's a risky gamble, but so far the low CPI numbers suggest it hasn't blown up in their faces yet.
So who benefits from this strategy?
U.S. exporters, without a doubt. If you are a farmer in the Midwest or a heavy equipment manufacturer, these new markets opening up is a godsend. For the consumer, it's probably a wash for now, unless the trade war escalates and prices do spike later. But right now, politically, the administration is winning the argument.
There is one area, though, where the government is intervening directly to lower prices for consumers.
Ah, yes. TrumpRx.gov.
This is the populist side of the coin.
Very much so. It's the most favored nation pricing policy.
Explain that, because this is a concept that Big Pharma absolutely hates.
They despise it. It essentially means the U.S. government says, we will not pay 1 single cent more for this prescription drug than you charge other developed nations like Germany or France or Canada.
So no more special high price for the American market.
None. If you sell it to France for $10, you have to sell it to Medicare for $10. End of story.
And since the U.S. market usually subsidizes the world's research and development, by paying triple or quadruple what everyone else pays.
This forces a massive, massive price correction. It's a huge win for any American with a prescription. It's a direct benefit to your wallet.
And it's another one of those fascinating examples of the golden age contradiction, isn't it?
It is.
Deregulate the car companies. Let them run free, but put a boot on the neck of the pharmaceutical companies. It's all about picking winners and losers based on who the administration thinks is screwing the American people.
And in this case, the patient benefits, but the pharmaceutical industry's bottom line gets hurt badly.
Let's move to the social landscape, because if the economic papers are heavy, the social rhetoric in these press releases it's visceral. I mean, reading them, the language is incredibly charged.
Visceral is the right word. It's designed to get a gut reaction. This isn't dry, bureaucratic language. It's campaign rally language put on official letterhead.
We have a press release titled, "Violent Crime Plummets Across Major U.S. Cities." And they cite data showing murders are down 19%, robberies down 20%.
And the data is from the Major Cities Chiefs Association. So the numbers themselves seem to be real, but the framing around those numbers is pure political theater.
They describe Democrat-run cities as having been war zones under the previous administration. They use phrases like anarchy and disorder.
And now they claim law and order has been restored thanks to a surge of federal resources. They are painting a very stark picture of a country that was on the brink of total collapse, saved only by this direct federal intervention.
There's even an article they put out titled, "Don't Be a Panickin'."
Which is a clever, if slightly mocking, play on words, panic plus American.
It's essentially saying to the public, stop freaking out, we came in and we fixed it.
It's a form of, I guess, gaslighting in reverse. They are saying the world was on fire, but we put it out, so stop worrying. Whether the crime drop is solely due to their actions or if it's just a broader post-pandemic trend, which many criminologists would argue is debatable.
But politically,
they are taking 100% of the credit. We sent in the feds and the crime stopped. It's a very simple, very powerful story to tell.
But the language regarding immigration,
My gosh.
savage criminal illegals, barbaric mutilation, it's incredibly harsh.
It's dehumanizing language, and that's intentional. We see reports here of something called Operation Metro Surge in Minnesota, arresting 4,000 people. The stated policy is to detain all illegal aliens. No more catch and release.
So the rhetoric is there to justify the action.
The rhetoric is designed to make the listener feel that these people are an existential threat, which in turn justifies the very harsh crackdown.
And this ties into the healthcare debate, too. That phrase, barbaric mutilation, is also used in the context of gender-affirming care.
Right. There's a specific note in these documents about a Minnesota hospital halting puberty blockers and hormones for minors. The administration frames this action as protecting children from mutilation.
And for you, the listener, this is where the golden age feels very, very different depending on who you are.
Completely.
If you believe these medical procedures are harmful or that children can't possibly consent to them, then this looks like a huge victory for child safety.
You'd see it as the government stepping in to do the right thing.
But if you are a trans youth or a parent of a trans youth, this looks like the government stepping directly into your doctor's office and forbidding necessary life-saving care.
Exactly. The benefit here is entirely ideological, but the effect is crystal clear. The federal government is applying what it calls relentless pressure to restrict social behaviors and medical treatments it disapproves of.
It's the Department of War applied to culture.
It is. It restricts the rights of a minority group under the banner of protecting the majority's values.
And then there's voting, the Save America Act.
Which is all about voter ID.
The administration makes a powerful case for it, claiming 80% of Americans support it, and that includes a majority of Democrats.
They cite polls from Pew and Gallup, and this is a classic wedge strategy. They are speaking directly to Democratic voters over the heads of their representatives and saying, hey, your own leaders in Congress are blocking something that you want.
They frame the opposition as radical left politicians.
It's very effective messaging. It isolates the opposition in Congress and paints them as out of touch. The benefit is framed as simple common sense, as election integrity.
And the critique.
The critique, of course, is that strict ID laws often disenfranchise poorer voters, elderly voters, or minority voters who don't have easy access to DMVs or can't afford the documents needed to get an ID. But the administration is just bulldozing that argument with the will of the people statistic.
They're saying this isn't suppression, this is what you, the people, asked for.
Exactly.
I want to zoom out for a second here. We've talked about the hard power, the coal mandate, the tariffs, the arrests. But there was a very different soft power element at play here, too.
Melania Trump.
The First Lady. Her role in these documents is distinct. It's almost like she's operating on a separate frequency.
A very different tone.
While the president is renaming the Department of War and using words like savages, Melania is reuniting children.
Yes. There's a whole press release detailing her success in reuniting Russian and Ukrainian children with their families, and this is the third time she's apparently done it.
It's surprisingly diplomatic. It's the opposite of the rest of the message.
It's classic good cop, bad cop on a global scale. While the administration projects Fortress America, hard borders, hard tariffs, coal-powered self-sufficiency, the First Lady projects humanitarianism and compassion.
She's also visiting the NIH, talking about resilience with sick children.
Right. It softens the very hard edges of the Golden Age.
It provides a necessary counterbalance, maybe.
I think so. It says to the world and to voters at home, we are strong, but we are also good. It makes the more aggressive policies easier to swallow for a moderate voter who might be turned off by the Department of War rhetoric. It humanizes the entire administration.
So we've gone through the stack. We've seen the coal mandate, the car deregulation, the trade wars, the crime stats, the social policy. If we had to draw up a balance sheet for the regular American listener, what does it look like? Where do things stand?
Let's try to synthesize it. It's a complicated picture.
Okay, let's start with the wallet. How does the wallet look?
The wallet, at least on paper and for now, looks good.
Mm-hmm.
Statistically, inflation is down, wages are up, gas is cheap. If you're in the market for a new car, it might get cheaper soon. If your job is in an export industry, the trade deals might open up new markets for your business.
So the golden age is delivering on the economic promise.
It seems to be, at least for now. If you are a voter who primarily votes with your pocketbook, you're probably pretty happy with these numbers.
Okay, next category. For the environment.
It's a red ink disaster. I mean, there's no other way to put it. The endangerment finding is gone, which removes the entire legal basis for federal climate action. Coal is being artificially propped up by the military. The entire green agenda is effectively dead.
So we are trading long-term environmental stability for short-term economic gain.
That is the explicit trade-off being made, yes.
All right. And for the Constitution and the structure of government itself.
This is the gray area, and maybe the most consequential in the long run. We are seeing what some would call a unitary executive on steroids.
Meaning?
Meaning an immense concentration of power in the executive branch. Renaming departments by fiat, directing military purchasing to favor specific industries, using tariffs as foreign policy tools without needing Congress.
And the shrinking of the federal workforce?
Right. That drop in federal employment suggests a government that is leaner, yes, but also potentially much weaker and less responsive to the needs of its citizens. It's a consolidation of power into a smaller, more centralized executive.
It really feels like the administration is building a fortress, a Department of War, a sealed border, a coal-powered grid that doesn't rely on the weather, a trade policy that punishes enemies and rewards friends.
Fortress America. That's a really good way to put it. The golden age they are selling is one of self-reliance, of industrial might, and of a very aggressive defense of borders, both physical and economic.
And the branding is relentless. Don't be a panican. Winning. Crushing expectations.
It's a self-reinforcing narrative. If you say you're winning loud enough, and then people see gas prices dropping, they start to believe you're winning. The narrative and the reality start to merge.
But I just can't shake that one detail. It keeps coming back to me. The Department of War.
It sticks with you, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
Because it reframes everything else we've talked about. If we have Department of War, then suddenly the trade deal with India isn't just about trade. It's a front in the economic war.
Mm-hmm.
The deregulation of cars isn't just about economics. It's about strengthening the domestic industrial base for what? For war.
And that's the chilling thought, isn't it? If language truly shapes reality, are we actively preparing for a hot conflict? Or is the war now a permanent state of being, a war for trade, a war for energy dominance, a war against national decline?
And that is the question to chew on. We are getting cheaper eggs and cheaper cars, but we might be driving them into a much more combative and uncertain world.
A golden age, surrounded by iron walls.
Thanks for working through this with us. As always, read the sources, check the numbers for yourself, and we'll catch you next time.
Stay curious.